Now, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Morocco meeting his counterpart Nasser Bourita. North African security issues are on the agenda, as well as the export of Algerian gas to Europe. Last year, Algiers stopped supplying the bloc with gas via Morocco following tensions over the long-running Western Sahara dispute. In December 2020, the U.S. recognized Morocco's sovereignty over the region in return for establishing ties with Israel. Well, let's speak to Jasper Haman about this. He's a foreign policy analyst at Morocco's World News. He joins us from Morocco's capital, Rabat. Thank you very much for being with us. What do you see, first of all, as the primary objective of this visit? Is it to improve relations with Algeria and Morocco when it comes to the U.S., or is it to find alternatives for Russian gas?
Well, when it comes to discussions, thank you for having me, by the way. When it comes to discussions between Morocco and the U.S. directly, I think it very much has to do with the U.S. wanting to curry favor with Algeria right now to supply gas to Europe amid an energy crunch, of course, due to the Ukraine crisis. So I think bilaterally, when it comes to Morocco and the U.S., it's very much about shoring up or ensuring Rabat of the support from the U.S., while the U.S. will actively lobby Algeria to supply gas to Europe.
All right. Now, Algeria, of course, is still very concerned about President Joe Biden's refusal to reverse his predecessor Donald Trump's recognition of Moroccan sovereignty over the disputed Western Sahara region. And Morocco has been frustrated that Biden doesn't intend to go beyond Trump's recognition. Just how difficult a balancing act are the Americans facing right now? How will they be able to balance the frustration on both sides?
It's very difficult to balance, and it is becoming much more difficult because of this Ukraine crisis. I think before the U.S. could afford to alienate Algeria to a small degree, because it was seen as more of a traditional ally with Russia. Because of the military support that Russia supplies with Algeria. Mm-hmm. But the lack of European gas in Europe, or the lack of Russian gas in Europe, is of course creating a big problem, and also for global energy prices, and right. That is a key political office in the topic in the U.S.
Right. There is a question of opening up the gas pipeline from Algeria to Morocco from Algeria via Morocco, which Algeria shut down last year, of course, after it suspended relations with Morocco. How likely is that? Is the current climate between the two countries conducive to such a thing happening?
Well, in the end, money talks in international geopolitics, of course. But at the same time, there has been recent developments on this dossier, with Spain voicing its support for Morocco's Western Sahara stance, which has created a new series of diplomatic tensions between Algeria and Spain. Mm-hmm. So I think Algeria right now feels backed into a corner to a large degree, with more and more partners supporting the Moroccan side of the discussion, and the diplomatic momentum being in Morocco's favor. So it will be very hard, I think, to give Algeria the confidence that, abandoning its Russian ally right. by helping Europe prevent an energy crunch is risky.
Right. I was going to ask you about the regional positions on the war in Ukraine. Algeria has found itself attempting to maintain a balance between Russia and the U.S., but Algeria has been seen to be traditionally close to Moscow than it is to the U.S. How are different players in the region approaching and addressing the conflict in Ukraine?
Well, I think underlining almost all decision-making in North Africa when it comes to the Ukraine crisis is the incredible dependency on exports, both from Russia and from Ukraine. Mm-hmm. The North Africa requires Ukrainian wheat for its very important food supply. And at the same time, the region also relies on Russia for a lot of chemical exports, which keep North African industry going. So the balancing act is very much dependent on the codependency, but also from a genuine push for conflict resolution instead of provocation and escalation.
Jasper, thank you very much for talking to us about this. Jasper Haman joining us there from Rabat. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Police in the UK